Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video on this fine grand final day. I'm doing this very late. I'll try my absolute hardest to get this video out in time before the start of the AFL grand final, but I highly doubt it. So I decided this year that, I'm going to, preview the previews of both the AFL and the NRL grand final, because the grand final is going to happen tomorrow night as I'm recording this. So I thought to combine them all in one video, and also with the last episode of the BD Footy wrap up for this season, I'm going to review both those grand finals at the same time as well. Firstly, let's start off with the AFL grand final. Obviously, I think it's the first time in a long time that we've seen both the AFL and NRL grand finals featuring teams 1 and 2. Of course, Collingwood finished on top of the ladder with Brisbane in second, and in the NRL, of course, Penrith finished on top with the Brisbane Broncos in second position. Highly ironically, both Brisbane teams finished second. So let's get into the team lineups first of all. For both sides. Firstly, for Collingwood, of course, one major change, obviously, being that, of course, Dan McStay got injured his MCL in the preliminary final against GWS. He's been replaced by Billy Frampton. It's pretty big for him, obviously. Of course, a big story, obviously, from Frampton, obviously, going to both South Australian clubs, firstly starting at Adelaide, starting at Port Adelaide, then went to Adelaide, and then he's gone to Collingwood, and potentially in about a couple hours time could possibly be a Premiership player. Unfortunately, as I said, McStay out because of the MCL injury, and Pat Lipinski would be omitted. I'll say that. I'll tell why I said omitted in a minute. By this time, I don't think the subs have been announced yet. I don't think the subs have been announced yet. I don't think. I'm checking this now. I don't think that the subs have been announced yet. No, there's been no official word in terms of the subs. As I say that, probably I just gave it away what Pat Lipinski's role's going to be. So from the back line, you got Murphy, Moore, and Howe. You got half back line. You got Braz Maynard, Billy Frampton, and Isaac Quaynor. Let me move this here. Let me move this here for a bit. So, then in the centre you got still side bottom Scott Pendlebury and Oleg Markov. On the half forward line you've got Bobby Dazzler himself, Bobby Hill, Brody Mychek, and of course Jamie Elliott. In the deep forward line you got Bo McQuarrie, Geordie DeGoey. Obviously he was BOG in the preliminary final. He's playing at full forward in this one. I would assume play alongside Harris Andrews, against Harris Andrews, I should say. And then of course you got Josh Dacos. And the followers you got Big Mason Cox as ruckman. Nick Dacos and Jack Crisp are also in the guts as well. In the interchange, you got Tom Mitchell, you got Cameron, Hoskin Elliott, and you got Jack Ginnivan as well. In the main team this time, the last couple couple of games, the last 3 games have been concluded because I've been him as the sub because I believe he was started the sub in the last game of the home and away series against Essendon. So it's the first game in a while that he's actually going to be starting in the 22. With the sub, that hasn't been announced yet, but I would presume the sub will be Pat Lipinski. I think either him or John Noble. I believe. I was guessing that will be Pat Lipinski. I must presume. I think because he can play in the midfield, and if to be honest, if there was a stage where if a player got injured in either in the back line or in the midfield or in the forward line, he would slot in there easily. So moving on to the Lions. No changes to the side that beat Carlton. So it's going in the lineups there from the back line. You got Starcevich, Harris Andrews, and Darcy Gardner. Apparently, Jack Payne, who missed out on the preliminary missed the preliminary final due to injury. Apparently, he passed his fitness test, but they decided not to risk it, and they've put Darcy Gardner in for his 4th game of the season. Half back line, you got Connor McKenna, Ryan Lester, and the man who was best on ground in the preliminary final against Carlton in Kadeem Coleman. That will be a very good contest there to see how he can contend with the Collingwood's half forwards. In the centre, you got Hugh McCluggage, Josh Dunkley, and I almost did a BT and I almost said Zane Dorco. Dane Zorko, obviously. But half forward line, you got Charlie Cameron, No Country Road, unfortunately today because obviously it's at the MCG. Obviously, Eric Hipwood and Callum Archie. And then in the full forward line, you got Cam Rayner, Joe Danaher, and Zach Bailey. The followers you got as ruckman, the Big O, Oscar McInerney. Then you got Lachie Neale. Actually, let me correct that. I should say newly dual Brownlow medalist Lachie Neale. Of course, congrats to him after winning the Brownlow on Monday night. And Jared Berry alongside him in the midfield. Interchange, you got Dylan Robertson. You got Lincoln McCarthy, Jasper Fletcher, and Darcy Wilmot. With, I would presume, once again, as done for Brisbane throughout the entirety of this final series, I would presume Jared Lyons will be the sub for them. The last time these two teams met was not that long ago. I believe it was about almost a month ago, in round 23, when Brisbane bet Collingwood. Collingwood were not in this good amount of form as they are now. They were in the middle of that that sort of lean patch, which all good teams usually do. They lost that one by 24 points. 15-10-100 to 19-10-124. For Collingwood, Pendlebury and Tom Mitchell both had 31 touches each, with Jamie Elliott kicking 3. Lachie Neale, he got 31 touches, and I think he got the 3 Brownlow votes. I believe in this game, I can remember rightly. Colin McKenna with 26, and then Charlie Cameron killed them with 4. I believe. And I think he kicked 6 in the game earlier in the year at the Gabba, I believe. So he's got form against Collingwood. There's Charlie Cameron. But other than that, it's just basically been the last 4 games. It's just been all Brisbane against Collingwood. And this is the time for Collingwood for me today to basically. Brisbane have been have bullied. Have basically bullied Collingwood for the last couple of years now, and it's the time to end. It's the time for Collingwood to end that. It's the time for them for Collingwood to end it, to end that as well. So now we move on to some of the key statistics of the game. Firstly, the Collingwood, and these ones are massive. Ones are massive. I got these off of Fox, or I should say, stolen these off of the Fox Footy Instagram. So go give them a follow for that. Shameless plug. So the one couple that stand out to me were to what I wrote, what I typed down here, is that in 2023, 50.7% of Collingwood's goals this year have come in a 32-minute window. So in some sort of in one 32-minute sort of way, or as I said, some sort of window in one false swoop. That's when they get the bulk of their goal, mostly halfly the bulk of their goals, where they score 5 goals while keeping opposition to just keeping them goalless or keeping to a solitary goal. That's what this statistic means, and obviously that's how they've 50. That's over half of their goals in 2023 have come this way. So yeah, and this one is just telling as well. Collingwood have scored 141 goals this season during a 32 minute window, while on the other hand, in the same time they've only conceded 12. So only conceded 12 goals. So basically, when they're on a roll, that's when basically the match is over pretty much, really, on that count. And the last two the two finals that they won in this final series have been conclusive of it. So the qualifying final, 35 minutes in the 35 minutes at some stage in this game, in the qualifying final against Melbourne, they kicked 5 goals in the score, on the scoreboard. It was plus 27, and they won the game by 7 points. That was instrumental. The preliminary final last week against GWS, in 13 minutes, I believe this was in the third quarter, I must guess. They kicked 5 goals in those 13 minutes. And on the scoreboard it was plus 26, not plus 26, plus 16. And what happened? They won the game by a single point. Telling statistic, I must say. That is telling with a capital T to me. And what springs out to mind to me, and I might rehash it a bit later in a bit, is I can see this game ending in the first 30 minutes of the game. It just based off of Collingwood starting like a house on fire on last Friday night, and then combining that with Brisbane's nervous start to the preliminary final last Saturday night. It could either be one of the more classic grand finals, or it could end in the same way it has been the last couple of years. That's been an absolute grand final blowout. So either one of those could happen, possibly, pretty much. On to Brisbane, and the key man for this one is Harris Andrews. Obviously. So in this, obviously, the first statistic, obviously, in 2023, Harris Andrews has had 142 spoils, and out of those 142 spoils, 51 of them have been to advantage. Which that ratio, by the way, is number 1 in the AFL. Another one for Harris Andrews. He has 113 intercepts. 54 of them have been intercept marks, which that ratio is number 3 in the AFL. Brisbane are ranked. This one's a big one as well. Brisbane are ranked 2nd in the AFL in terms of scoring percentage based off of Harris Andrews' intercepts. So pretty much, when Harris Andrews intercepts the ball, most of the time they go on and score. I don't know what it didn't show the right percentage, the actual percentage, but we all know they rate 2nd AFL in terms of points, scoring percentage from Harris Andrews' turnovers. And a big one also is that Brisbane's win-loss record, when it comes to them winning the clearances, they're 14-2 this season. So basically, when they win the clearances, they basically win the game. But I would presume Collingwood's basically around about the same record. So I would assume, again, like it always has, the game will probably be one out of the middle. Head-to-head team statistics. Obviously, Collingwood has a slightly better record, obviously being the top team in the league. Surprisingly, Brisbane has the best record over Collingwood in terms of versus a top 8 side. Games at the MCG, obviously that's very, very lopsided, pretty much, because Brisbane only played 2 games and lost both of them, while Collingwood played most of their games at the MCG. In terms of grand finals, Collingwood are looking for the record equaling 16th flag, which takes them level with Carlton and Essendon, unfortunately, with 16 flags. Brisbane are looking for their 4th. They haven't won one since the last of the three-peat flags in 2003. In terms of their points, average points for and against, Brisbane are way better in terms of average points scored. Obviously, 95 points per game compared to 90 for Collingwood, but Collingwood is way better in terms of their defence. Obviously, just a tick under 72 points per game compared to Brisbane, a tick under 76.5 points per game as well. Finally, looking to the road to the grand final, so how each team got here. We start off with Collingwood, obviously, top team in the competition. Ended with the season with 18 wins to their name. A bit of a drop off towards the end of the season, but as I said, all good sides do have that. And two thrilling finals they played in as well. A thrilling preliminary qualifying final against Brisbane when they just snuck home to win by 7 points, despite a furious D's rally in the last quarter. And then an even more thrilling game against GWS at the MCG in front of 97,000 people. I still can't believe that. Where they snuck home to win by a single point. Brisbane, on the other hand, they did not need such thrilling finishes in their repertoire, because they've just like that. Of course, they ended the season in 2nd. They had the chance to steal top spot in the last game, but unfortunately, thanks to us, Brisbane that basically ended their chance. They versed Port Adelaide in the first week, absolutely spanked them on their home turf, and a same to Pecan after quarter time, they really did. They really did put Carlton to the sword and won that game by 16 points to advance through to the grand final. Obviously, of course, the big thing that stood out to me, obviously, is each team's home record. I mean, of course, 12 straight for Brisbane at the Gabba, and then of course 10-2 at home. The MC for Collingwood. Mostly, most of their wins that come at the MCG, pretty much. A better away record for Collingwood than it is for Brisbane. So yeah. So now to the predictions. Obviously, I'll predict who wins and the margin. Norm Smith medalist, first goal, and of course the bold prediction. So I think, unfortunately, I don't want to say it. I don't want to. Unfortunately, it's as long as a Essendon fan, I don't want this to happen. But in my head, it's gonna happen. Collingwood will be 2023 Toyota AFL Premiers by 5 goals, in my opinion, and I'll wait to the bold prediction to know why. Norm Smith medalist, I think, based off of his prelim final performance last week, it'll have to be Jordan De Goey. I mean, he was just unstoppable in the preliminary final. GWS just could not, for the God of their lives, tackle him, and I believe it'll be the same against Brisbane, and I believe he will, he pretty much will win. Norm Smith, which will cap off his recovery. I mean, he was, of course, he wasn't performing that well a couple of years ago, and then obviously had the controversy with him, with almost being in jail, and then controversially being allowed to holiday, which he also while his trip there to Bali also got in trouble for. Who would have think that possibly, for me, that I believe it would just cap it all off for him by winning the Norm Smith medal. And the first goal, I believe it'll go to Bobby Dazzler himself, Bobby Hill. I believe that and I think it'll just cap off what is a memorable season, I believe. Of course, last year obviously was a GWS, obviously battling testicular cancer. Went home to Collingwood, and he's become an instrumental part in Collingwood's success in 2023. And the bold prediction. Now, I said that Collingwood would win by 5 goals, and this is particularly why. I said earlier that it could end in the first 30 minutes. Let me change that. It will end in the first 30 minutes, because this is my bold prediction. Collingwood would score 7 goals to 0 in the first term. Now, if Brisbane conceded 5 goals to 1 in the first quarter last week against Carlton, what choice do they have against the top team in the competition? Where basically, as I said from the statistics, they over 50% of their goals this year have come from a successful over 30-minute swoop where they've kicked multiple goals to basically bugger all. So that's what I believe will happen basically in that game. So unfortunately, even though I hate to say it, I think Collingwood will equal Essendon and Carlton's run of 16 premierships. Unfortunately, I didn't want to say it, but I had no choice to, unfortunately. I mean, in here was Brisbane, but I mean, in here it's Collingwood, to be honest. So yeah. Moving on to the NRL Grand Final, which is going to be on tomorrow night. So obviously these two are the top 2 teams, obviously in the competition, Penrith and Brisbane. The lineups, obviously now I have watched a bit more of the NRL in the last few weeks. Obviously, I watched I didn't watch the Panthers, the Penrith Melbourne Storm preliminary final, but I did watch the preliminary final between the Broncos and the New Zealand Warriors. So I have watched more of that this year. It's hard to basically watch between the AFL and the NRL, to be honest, when they're matched on at the same time. So pretty difficult with that. But yeah, so the backs, the back line. Obviously, we'll start with the Panthers. Obviously, the back line. Of course, Dylan Edwards as actually, let's actually delve into. I'm trying to. Here we go. So from the back line, the backs you got Dylan Edwards as fullback, Vurava as the winger, Isaac Targo and Stephen Crichton in the centres. Brian Tuttle as the other winger. 5'8" is Jerome Luai, and of course halfback obviously is the man himself, Nathan Cleary. In the forward pack, obviously got Moses Leota and James Fisher Harris as the two props. Mitch Kenny as hooker. The two second rowers are Scott Sorensen and Liam Martin, with lock being Isaiah. The interchanges you got Jack Cogger, Lindsay Smith, Spencer Lenu, and Luke Gardner. With the reserves, obviously I assume the injury or the concussion replacement for the Panthers is Tyrone Peachey. With the four reserves being Matthew Eisenhuth, Zach Hosking, Luke Summerton, and Tom Jenkins. Now moving on to the Broncos, obviously their backs, obviously Reece Walsh himself obviously starting as fullback. Jesse Arthurs and Selwyn Cobbo as the wingers, Katoni Staggs and Herbie Farmworth as in the centres. There was concern about injury concern about Herbie Farmworth, but obviously he's recovered. He was recovered from it, and he will play tomorrow night. Ezra Mam as 5'8", with Captain Courageous himself, Adam Reynolds, as at half back, which obviously it would be a big story for him if it ends up winning this premiership. Obviously, he was on the outer at South Sydney. Some people was probably saying, "Oh, could his career have come to an end?" He's gone to Brisbane. He came out early this week saying that he loves the club. So, due to probably the opportunity that he was given by Kevin Walters at the Broncos. The forward pack, obviously you got Thomas Vidler and Payne Haas as the two props. Billy Walters as hooker. The two second rowers are Kurt Capewell and Jordan Ricky, with Patrick Carnigan as the lock. There's an interchange. You got Tyson Smoothie, Brendan Picura, Kobe Hetherington, and Keenan Palacia, I think is how you say it. In terms of the reserves, you got in terms of replacement, in terms of the injury replacement, you got Corey Oates, and then the four reserves, you got Martin Topo, Corey Jensen, Jock Madden, and Tristan Saylor as the four reserves. So that's the lineups there for both of those sides. So yeah, and of course the coaches, obviously the Panthers with Ivan Cleary, and the Brisbane Broncos with Kevin Walters. The last time these two teams met, surprisingly, was back in round 12. When the Panthers bet the Broncos at home at Suncorp at 15-4 in a fairly low scoring game. Turns for Brisbane, Herbie Farnworth, he had 247 running meters. Patrick Carling got 67 tackles, and Jock Madden only had 477 kick meters. In terms of Penrith, Dylan Edwards, he had a great game. He had 275 running meters, as well as 12 tackle breaks. We've obviously with Nathan Cleary. I've said the wrong name there. Nathan Cleary getting perfect 2 from 2 in terms of conversions. Much the same as I said for Collingwood, I believe, but it's a chance for Brisbane because other than round 1 this year, it's just basically the Panthers just basically have basically bullied them throughout this year, obviously. So that's pretty big really. So and of course, and also fun fact, also it's the first time that they're going to be playing at Accor Stadium this year, the Broncos. So moving on to the head-to-head, obviously the win-loss record this season, obviously Penrith had this. Both teams have the exact same record, 20-6. In terms of playing at Accor Stadium, Penrith have played there twice this season, one win and one loss. As I said, Brisbane's their first game and only game at Accor Stadium this season. For the Bronx. In terms of grand finals, obviously Brisbane, we all know their record. But fun fact, this is the very first grand final that the Broncos are going to be in that is not coached by Wayne Bennett, because all the other 7 grand finals, including the one in 2015 where they ended in that thrilling grand final, were all coached by Wayne Bennett. This is the very first grand final that is not going to be coached by him. By the way, as well, with Panthers obviously looking for winning 4 flags and looking for their 5th, and possibly becoming the first side in the NRL era to win 3 consecutive premierships. So yeah. Fairly even in terms of their in terms of average points scored. Obviously, Penrith is slightly ahead by 0.4 points. But of course, the Panthers are far better, superior team in terms of their defence. Obviously, 12.3 points per game compared to Brisbane's 16.8 points per game. Now to the road to the grand final for both sides. Obviously, of course, the Panthers, we all know, they ended the season as minor premiers only by points differential, by a superior points differential, I should say. In the first week, they obviously defeated the Sean Johnson-less New Zealand Warriors, smashed them 32-6. While and then obviously last week, they actually obliterated the Broncos, obliterated the Melbourne Storm, which, to be honest, I did expect, really. To be honest, really, on that front. And they defeated them 38-4. On the other hand, Brisbane, similarly as well, they finished second with the exact same record, obviously, but only beaten by points differential, as I said. They actually obliterated the Melbourne Storm in the first final, which obviously, sadly, was marred by the shocking injury to Ryan Pappenhausen. And then last week, just absolutely obliterated the New Zealand Warriors that had Sean Johnson this time. So yeah. The one thing that stood out to me is the Brisbane Broncos. They have a home record of 7-5 at Suncorp Stadium. Their away record, 11-1. away from home. Now I know that, you know, you need to have it's not like home ground or home court or something. Home advantage is important, but what's probably more important is winning away from home, because that would be important. That would be important because, especially obviously for teams like, of course, you know, like the Broncos, the Titans, Melbourne Storm, those sort of teams, or the Dolphins. Those sort of teams that are from outside of New South Wales or outside of Sydney, that is very important. And for the Broncos, that it's very important. They can look back on that and say we've been great away from home all year. And I'm interested to see what that solitary away loss was too, because if it was in Queensland, then they're probably unbeaten in Sydney. So that just basically gives them a amount of confidence basically to get the job done. But the key for me, before I get to my prediction here, the key for the Panthers for me, and this is what I noticed in the first 10-15 minutes of the preliminary final between the Broncos and the Warriors, was the Broncos were going bang. They had this quick, fast start, and it was clear that the Warriors were trying to go with them, but it backfired. It absolutely backfired, and that's how it ended. In the score, dead 42-12. That's how it ended that way. So I think for me, the most important thing for the Panthers is probably they don't get sucked into the way that the Broncos play, because if they do, then that's going to play into the Broncos' hands. So if they avoid that, then probably the Panthers, which we all know, you guys all know, I know, we all know what the Panthers have done over the last 3 years. Probably Ivan Cleary will probably say to the boys, don't be sucked into the way the Broncos play, because if you do, then that's going to play into their hands. If you don't, it's going to play into our hands. Then that would mean that they have to play the way that the Panthers play, which means that there will be advantage to them. So yeah, and that counts. So yeah. So finally to the predictions. So I think the Panthers will make history and will win that third straight NRL Premiership, and I believe that they would win this one by 24 points. So just like last year, probably just be a blowout at the end of the day. The Clive Churchill. So I've combined this. Now, the Clive Churchill medalist and the first try, I think both will go to Brian To'o. He's been impressed me all year. I remember watching him when during the Origin series earlier this year. Watched all 3 Origin games, and I thought to myself, Jesus, slippery little bugger. Jesus, slippery little bugger. He was probably the Blues' best player during that State of Origin series, and I think for Brian To'o, I believe that this could be the stage where he says, I'm not just content with being the best winger in terms of this Panthers team. I want to be the best winger in the league. I want to be the best winger in the league. This is the perfect stage to do it, I think, in my personal opinion. So yeah. Now finally, the bold prediction. I think that between the two teams, I believe 3 tries are going to be scored in the first 15 minutes. I was going to say first 10, but I thought, probably it's a bit far-fetched. So, probably a bit unlikely. So, I said 15 minutes. I think 3 tries will be scored in the first 15 minutes. I believe 2 tries. I think the Panthers, To'o will score a try. And then maybe someone like maybe Cobbo, or maybe get one back for the Broncos, and then and then of course someone like maybe someone like for the Panthers, like maybe Stephen Crichton would probably score their second in like the latter half of the 15 minutes. So that's what I believe will come down to. So that's pretty much it for this video. So yeah, I better wrap it here because I think because the game is starting in about half an hour time. So about just over half an hour from now. So I probably should end this now. But so like this video, share it to anybody who's a Brisbane fan or a Carlton fan, as well. Click on comment down below if you're watching this during the game. What are your predictions on the two games? And if you're watching this after the AFL Grand Final, did you get your AFL Grand Final predictions right? Or if you're watching this after both Grand Finals, did you get your AFL and NRL Grand Final predictions right or wrong? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And one last thing, somewhere down there, click on the big red button which is labelled subscribe. But until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later, and wherever you may be, may the sun or the moon shine on you on Grand Final Day.